in our previous lesson we set up the buttons, and what I'd like to do now is show you how to place the buttons onto their relevant pages. So if we go to the pages and have a look at the refer to the plan, so we can see that the home page, which is the menu page, has the welcome, church tour, windows tour, notices and guestbook button on it. So if we go to the home page just by clicking the logo, this is, you can see there's nothing on there yet. So let's find the home page, which is here, and the content will appear, and you can see that's exactly what we saw there. So we'll delete that content so that it's completely empty, and I'll add one button so that you can see the effect. So if I go to the plan, the first button is the welcome button. So we'll say add button, find the welcome button, insert button into editor, and that's called a short code, and that's when the system sees that code, it will convert that into a button. So let me show you that. So if I update, so that's the equivalent to saving the page. If then I go to, this is still showing the previous page, so if I refresh, okay, so there's the button, and if we were to look at it on a mobile display, it would look like this. Now that would look okay on a mobile display, but we want to make it nice for every single type of display, so we're going to centralize that button. So we just click over where the max button is and just align center, and that puts it into the center. And we have to update because we've made a change to the page, and if we have a look and refresh now, it should place the button into the center. Okay, so that's one button. We press enter to come down underneath that button, and we'll place each of the buttons. So the church tour, so again, add button, church tour, insert button, and the next one, the windows tour, and I know they're all in order, so it's just a matter of choosing each one, but I just want to be absolutely sure. So the next one is the so we've added the windows, notices, then guestbook. So add button, and notices, and finally the guestbook. Okay, so if we update and go to our home page, we should see those buttons appear, and if we click any one, it will now take us to the correct page, but obviously every single page is empty. Okay, so that's set up the home page. So now let's have a look at the welcome page. So if we go to pages and bring up the welcome page, so what we're going to have on this page is a film and we want to give the visitor the option to return back to the home page after they've watched the film. So the only button that we need on this page is a home button. So we'll align center. I've put it, basically just pressed enter to come down one line, just to just to give us room to put the film in when we come around to do that. So add button, and we just want to put the home button into there, and remember to update. We'll take a look at the plan. So the next one is the church tour. So the church tour is a page which links to church bells and the font. So we'll find the church tour, and we want to add buttons here for the church tour and the font. And thinking about this, we'll also add a home button. We can always take it out if we don't need it, but I just think it might allow the visitor to return home. So update that. Take a look at our plan. So the Windows tour is a film playlist, and then we return, when we've watched that, we can return back to the home page. So it's again just a home button. So the Windows, and so's the notices, and so's the guest book. Each one of those will show us the content, but then we'll return home. So for the Windows, we just want a home button. So add button home. Remember to update, and next page is notices, and add button home. We'll put a space above so we can put our content above that. Update, and then finally the guest book page. Okay, the guest book is a post, so we won't find it in pages, but we will find it in posts, and we will just put a return button here in exactly the same way. Justify it in the center, add button, and again home, insert button, and update. So we've put our buttons into this layer. Now we have church bells, and church bells is part of it, is a layer below church tour. So the buttons I'd want to add to church bells would be bell ringers, bells, history of bells, bell talk, and then one more button to take us back to church tour in case the visitor wanted to look at the bells, and then wanted to look at the font. So the page is church bells. And it's the bell ringers. Then it's the bells. Then it's history of the bells. Then it's the bell talk. And then finally we'll add a button which takes us back to the, just check that, the church tour, because you can see they both go back up to this layer. So, oops. Church tour, insert the button. Okay, remember to update that. Okay, and the font is just the font button attaches to the font, and the font page, the only button on there will be back to the church tour, back to this layer. So okay, so this shows up one thing, which is that it appears that I didn't make a page for the font because they are in alphabetical order and I don't see a page for the font. So I shall add a new page and call it the font, and we know that we are putting one button that goes back to the church tour, and update that. So that's dealt with that layer, and then now we're on to the final layer, and the bell ringers, bells, history of bells and bell talk all return back to the church bells page. So just check that I published that page. Okay, all pages. If we go bell ringers, add button, and they're all going back to the church bells page. I'll drop it down just so we've got some space for content, and we'll do that for each of the bell related pages. Bell talk, add the button that goes back to the church bells, update that. Next one is the the bells, which is this bells film, which again links back to church bells. So we'll just add a button that goes back to church bells. It's a button into editor. And finally, if we look at the history of the bells, justify that centrally, add button, and it goes back to church bells, insert button into editor, and update that. Okay, so we've dealt with the lowest layer, so we should have our navigation structure set up now, but we can test it now. We can refresh our home. Okay, so this is the home page. So we've got welcome, which will have the welcome content, and then we go home. We have our church tour, which will have okay, so our church tour should have church bells and then the font, and it has church tour and the font, so we need to change that to church bells. So this is in the church tour page. So if we go to the church tour page, we know that it's the first button that we've incorrectly placed, so highlight it, add button, and it should be church bells. So we insert the button, and that's changed it. All that's done is change the number to the actual number of the button. So we could have just changed that to 7, but doing it this way is a little bit more visual way of seeing it. So now if we refresh, okay, now it's church bells. So we'll check the font. That will have the font details, and then we go back to the church tour, and if we go to church bells, we have bell ringers, the bells, history of bells, bell talk, church tour. So if we go to church bells and bell ringers, that'll have the content, and then back to the church bells. Okay, so you can see how the buttons set up the navigation structure, and you either have a page with no content, no digital content, just buttons, all leading to other pages with just 1 or 2 buttons and digital content. Okay, so I think that's the end of this lesson, and in the next lesson we can start looking at adding content.